say now good morning to Claire Muldoon and to Candice Halsworth as they see the stories that are making the headlines. Claire, Baroness Eamonn, first of all, Lady Eamonn, what is she? Well, she's doing plenty of moaning anyway.
Isn't she?
Yes. So
Isn't she?
What do you make of what's going on?
This is definitely more than a storm in a D-cup, let me tell you. And I, for one, I'm really pleased now she has come out and actually admitted that she's lied. And I think now the public need to get behind the fact that her company, which she was involved with, MedPro, have cost this country an absolute arm and a leg. And there was no support from her or her company for that, because half of the stuff that we procured through the VIP lane in the House of Lords that she was given in 2015, that free pass by David Cameron made Lady Michelle moan. Let me just leave that hanging there. But this is an absolute disgrace. I want to see a full investigation. I want the money paid back, because don't forget, half that stuff that we procured couldn't even be used. It wasn't fit for purpose.
Well, she's been very purposeful in her defence, and with your Scottish accent and her Scottish accent, I think you're both from Glasgow. Why is she not overly liked in Scotland?
Because the accounts of Ultimo were an absolute disgrace for a start.
Ultimo was her lingerie company.
Yes. And, you know, I mean, she also said she would leave the country if the SNP got in, okay?
And you feel disappointed she hasn't?
No, she did leave, even though they
leave?
didn't. Exactly, you can't trust a word that she comes out of her mouth.
Where'd she go to, the Isle of Man?
Well, she's there now, isn't she?
Yeah.
With Doug Barrowman, or whatever his name is, her new husband. Anyway, it's not for me to like someone or dislike them, you know, but I can have a view on what I think's right and what's wrong. And I think there's so many facets of our relationship with regards to finance and this country and the PPE and the pandemic and the fact she had that whip removed in 2022. She's not come to the House of Lords once in that time. It's an absolute disgrace. And whilst I would say it's from, in my view, it's for me to say that I think she should be removed from the House of Lords, I'm not necessarily calling for a complete reform of the House of Lords, but at least it looks like Keir Starmer and I are on the same page for once.
Candice, it seems like she's determined to bring the government down with her, if you like, because she's insisting that ministers knew about her involvement.
I know, and people
with
are
PPE farm.
Yes, and people are asking, you know, what was this so-called call she had with Michael Gove? I mean, the whole thing seems very opaque. It doesn't look like it went through the usual channels. Nadine Dorries wrote in the Daily Mail this morning that she was a health minister at the time, and some of the things that Monet has used to explain how she got the contract, she says that doesn't make sense, that no civil servants were asked to personally recommend contacts. There should have been a proper procurement process that should have taken place.
Well, the reason that there wasn't was because of this VIP lane, and that circumnavigated any form of subjectivity in terms of procuring the contract, and that just wasn't there.
Yeah, it has a bad stench
It
about
does.
the VIP lane.
Yes.
Why would there be a VIP lane? To speed things up,
Exactly.
to get more preferential for certain
But
suppliers?
It was urgent, wasn't it, to get that PPE? I mean, there was
But
a
why
massive
her?
urgency
But I think
about
what they're
it.
saying is she's no previous background in any of this sort of thing. So why suddenly was she chosen and made a VIP and had all this access in government?
And she denies at the time that she actually had any involvement with MedPrev. I've spoken about this here before, you know that. And there was no and there was no way that she said she was involving in that. Then she sat there, done up like a dish of fish, saying, you know, I'm sorry.
Well, hang on, how she looked has got absolutely nothing to do with what she said.
But it is very amusing anyway.
Yeah. So, or a melted bucket, take your pick. So she was sitting there saying, oh, I lied to the press, but that's no crime. Come on.
Well, it's not a crime to lie to the press.
Well, it's
You're
like
still
Philip
alive.
Schofield, isn't it? I mean,
Let's not go down that
his relationship, but it wasn't against
Let's
the law.
not mention that.
What I would mention though is she talks about her own children in this as if they're babies. They're not babies.
They're not babies.
And you know, protecting her children in this. I mean, these are grown up adults. So I can't see that. I wouldn't think it was anyone's immediate direction to say, oh, she's got that contract, let's attack her children.
It's the same as Matheson, the SNP guy with the iPad in Morocco last thing. He threw his kids under the bus. What is
his work kids?
Yeah, sorry?
His work kids, they work.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Hers aren't. Her youngest is similar age to my youngest because they were in the same schools.
Yeah, all right, okay, understand that one. Esther Ranson, Candice and Dignitas. I would say, first of all, everything Esther says, she's a friend of mine. We wish her well with what's going on. She's got stage 4 cancer. She's saying she would like the right to end it as and when she decides. And I personally think it's barbaric that we don't give people the right to end their lives.
It's desperately sad. I think anyone who's seen someone with late-stage cancer when they're in their final days, it is one of the hardest things you will ever see. It is a very traumatic experience for the family and friends as well. I think the other side of it, though, is that the people who campaign against assisted dying laws will say, well, there's a slippery slope, as we've seen in Belgium and Canada, for instance, where people with sort of very severe mental health conditions are being recommended for assisted dying, and also people who are very depressed and feel like they're a burden could also put themselves forward for it. For me, I can't see a clear, bright line between the two, because I can completely understand when someone is terminally ill and they are desperately ill and they don't want their last days to be in pain and turmoil, why they would want it. But we have seen precedents in other countries of how it can be abused.
Dame Esther wants a free vote on assisted dying to allow the terminally ill to pass away with dignity. If anybody can achieve that, when you think of what Dame Esther Ranson's achieved over the years, you know, the success of Childline, etc., it's her.
Yeah. I don't know, I'm very, very conflicted on this. I made a film about it a few years ago, and I started off being in favour of assisted dying, but by the end of the programme, I had changed my mind. I had a more nuanced view on it.
Why?
Because the people who I spoke to said so many elderly people get very depressed and they begin to think that they're a burden, and that is a concern. And we don't take care of the mental health of older people well at all. And so that concerns me.
We don't take care of end of life at all in this country. The palliative care is absolutely shocking. I'm not for assisted dying in any way, shape or form, because my first stance, my moral compass always says pro-life from the very beginning. And I think if we had the support, if we had the family support, if we had the medical support, if we had the underpinning in society to support those most vulnerable, and that's what we're all about. Our laws are there to protect the most infirm, the most vulnerable, the under the age of consent. That's what our laws are there to do. Now, we have a thing called natural law, common law, moral law, legal law, and within all of this framework, there must be a way that people can die with dignity naturally in this country.
I wonder, would you think any differently if you were racked with pain?
But the pain shouldn't be there. That's the whole point. Palliative care should have been invested in, should have been underpinned, should be available to help people who are in chronic pain.
Let us know.